Let's get into the news. Something that happened this week was PWI came out with their 500 list, and Kenny Omega topped the list. Drew, does Kenny Omega deserve this title, or do you think somebody else kind of deserved that number one spot, considering there has been controversy in the past with these lists?
Okay, first and foremost, I don't like to bury Canadians. That's my number one thing here. I don't like to bury Canadians, but I'm going to have to on this one. I just have not been a fan of Kenny Omega's title run in AEW, and I think the guy that is number 2 on the list should have been number 1. That is your tribal chief, Roman Reigns. Since this guy has returned, this character that he has presented us with over the last 365 days, you have seen the growth of Roman Reigns. Yes, we've talked over the years, and even John Cena has said it in promos time in and time out, that Roman is the guy that has to switch up for 2 years. And I think this Roman Reigns is the best Roman Reigns we got, and he should have been the number 1 guy on the PWI list. Kenny Omega, yeah, he's great in ring, but I just don't believe him as the AEW champion.
Not to mention, Kenny Omega, one of the all-time great, but, he hasn't had maybe the matches that we normally see Kenny Omega have. He hasn't really lived up to that best bout moniker. He has defended the championship, but Jungle Boy, Jon Moxley, Christian, Roman Reigns. I mean, he beat Bray Wyatt, Braun Strowman, Edge, Daniel Bryan, Jimmy, Jay, more recently John Cena. It's kind of a head scratcher. Roman had maybe the better list quality of names that he ran through than Omega. No?
100%. Look at the names you've listed off, and some of those guys are no longer in the WWE. 4 of the names that you mentioned are no longer in the WWE. If we're talking about body of work from 365 days, Roman Reigns has brought it not only as a character, but his in-ring style, his presentation, the addition of the bloodline, the addition of having Paul Heyman, and even Paul Heyman doesn't have to do as much as he was doing with Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to speak as much as he does with Brock Lesnar.
And doesn't that speak volumes?
Yes. Where Kenny Omega, yes, he has a mouthpiece in Don Callis, and his character is more of the cowardly heel that needs all these run-ins. So, yes, that best bout machine moniker, to me, gets erased because you haven't been in matches with the best, even in your own company. Like, if this was 2017, 2018, where he's having matches with Omega and Okada and Ishii, and the list goes on, and having these 5 and 6 and 7 star matches, yes, he warrants being number 1. But in this particular calendar year, no, I think they got the list wrong. I think, honestly, if it was me and I was giving my top 5, it would be Roman Reigns 1, Bobby Lashley 2, Drew McIntyre 3, Will Ospreay 4, and then I would put Finn Balor at my number 5. You could even say Big E had a better year than Kenny Omega. I just think because Kenny Omega is one of the EVPs in AEW, and the belt's on him, it's like he doesn't work with the belt for me. It doesn't scream superstar to me. I think he has to do all these other things like the cool jackets and being part of the elite and the 80 to make himself look good. And I think the guys over at PWI just looked at it like AEW is the hot place right now, and let's give the hot company the number 1 guy, instead of looking at it, who has been the top guy for the last 365 days.
And let's kind of run down the top 10 list. Kenny Omega's number 1, Roman Reigns is number 2, Bobby Lashley's number 3, Drew McIntyre number 4, 5 Kota Ibushi, 6 Jon Moxley, 7 Will Ospreay, 8 Finn Balor, 9 Shingo Takagi, 10 Rich Swann. Any names pop out to you, Drew?
No, actually, it's just for me. It's the number 1 spot. I think Kenny Omega could be in the top 10, but I don't see him as number 1. I see McIntyre could be up in number 1. Lashley could be in number 1. Kota Ibushi. I'm looking at guys that actually carried their company throughout the pandemic.
Oh yeah.
When they had to do shows in front of nobody. And for me, the 2 guys that benefited the 3 guys that benefited the most are 2, 3, and 4 with Roman, Lashley, and McIntyre. Roman's character blew up throughout the pandemic. Same with McIntyre's character blew up throughout the pandemic. And same with Bobby Lashley winning his title during the pandemic and now having this great reign that he's been on. I just think Kenny Omega won the title in nefarious ways. And like you said, he defended it against Christian Cage, Jungle Boy, Jon Moxley. You know, there's nobody of substance there. It's not like he defended it against a Jericho or even a Cody Rhodes or a Darby Allin or anybody of substance, even in AEW, that people could be like, oh, they had a great match. It's just he has to do all this side nefarious things and be the cowardly heel. It doesn't, to me, just doesn't warrant him that number 1 spot. Roman could take it. Lashley could take it. McIntyre can take it. I'm just one name actually looking back at the list. The one name that surprised me that stayed in the top 10 is Jon Moxley. He kind of moved out of the title picture and was tagging with Eddie Kingston, and now he's doing
out to a degree.
Yeah, like he could be further down on the list. There's other guys that I'm looking here on the top 20 that could have easily moved up into that 6th spot. Ospreay honestly should be in the top 5. Shingo could move up in the top 5 because of what he had to do after the last time I was talking with you guys, where we talked about how that IWGP heavyweight title has bad juju, and he's still carrying it and elevating it to the best of his ability. Him at 9, I'm kind of shocked. The other name that I'm shocked about is Rich Swann, and looking at his where he was previously on the list in 2020 at 230 to get to 10. I'm trying to remember, what did he do? He wrestled Kenny Omega and lost.
He won the Impact Championship.
He won the Impact Championship, and then he lost it to Kenny Omega.
Unfortunately, the only reason I see Rich Swann at 10 is they needed somebody from Impact in the top 10. I
totally agree with that. Because then you could be here for hours, because this list obviously is 500 wrestlers, and some of the guys that are 14, 15, like Randy Orton. That's another guy in the WWE that's been an amazing character. Even being in the tag teams with Riddle there, and challenging for the title, even winning the title during the pandemic. That's another guy that could easily have been in the top 10.
He should have been in the top 10. He has had one of the best 2-year runs.
Yes.
You can even compare with Roman at this point.
Yes. Big E is another guy that could be easy in the top 10. Winning the Money in the Bank, splitting away from the New Day, and actually creating his own identity away from them.
Oh, yeah.
Karrion Kross at 16. After what they're doing to him on Raw, no. No, I'm sorry, man. If they only said Karrion Kross from NXT, Karrion Kross, okay, I can see you at 16. But what they're doing to him on Raw, I don't know. But those are some of the names that jumped out at me that, you could easily move up into the top 10. But I don't think Kenny Omega should be in that that number one spot. But I understand why they put him there, because AEW right now is the hottest place to be, and he is the champion, and all of the other accolades that he has done over the last 3, 4, 5 years, being the best belt machine and all that. Yeah, I could see it, but to me personally, I'm just not a fan of it.
I think it's we should move on because we could be here all night talking about this.
Yes, we could. Yes, we could.
And a bit of good news this week. Al Snow actually saved a child from drowning. Usually wrestling is not always shown in the best light, in the media and news. So it's really great just to hear, a feel-good story about a wrestler doing something good in his community. No, Drew?
Yes, 100%. Remember last year, May, we lost Shad Gaspard to a drowning incident after he was trying to save his own son.
Yes.
So a year and plus a little year after the fact that Al Snow, a wrestler, being able to save a child's life, that's an amazing thing. It's as you said, wrestling has always been painted in the bad light, that fake thing, or it's been talked down to. It's like for the lesser class, stuff like that we've heard over the years, especially a guy like me that has had to defend his love for professional wrestling for many years.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just cool to be able to, when you turn on a TMZ or anything like that, and it's not a negative wrestling story where we're talking about somebody has passed away or somebody's caught up in legal problems, to actually hear that, hey, this wrestler Al Snow saved the child's life. Big ups to it, man. It's an amazing story to hear. And like I said, after last year losing Shad Gaspard to a drowning incident, it's just a heart-wrenching story to hear that somebody in professional wrestling doesn't have to be looked at like they're not human. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so kudos to it.
A little bit of big news. WWE signed Olympic gold medalist Gable Stevenson. Which is a little bit interesting because you kind of get that Kurt Angle vibe with, Angle coming out 3 years after winning his gold medal to WWE. Do you see that Stevenson will be maybe following in that footsteps, or do you think it's gonna take him maybe a little bit while to adapt? Because, not everybody's a Kurt Angle.
No, not everybody's Kurt Angle. Not everybody's a Brock Lesnar. Not everybody's a Shelton Benjamin. I'm talking about these guys that left the amateur ranks and went into pro wrestling. As a former amateur wrestler in high school, don't look it up, I don't think, for me personally, now in 2021, if I was an amateur wrestler, I would be looking to go into the WWE, because, to be honest with you, I see him being in developmental for a long time. I really think he is part of that new initiative down in NXT. His signing is that new initiative. We're not going after the guys that have been on the indies for 13, 14, 15 years. We're not going after the Adam Coles. We're not going after the Kyle O'Reillys and the Samoa Joes anymore. We're going to actually go and recruit guys and girls that want to be WWE superstars, and that we can have them learn our system so that they can be the next superstar for them for years to come. I don't know how old Mr. Stevenson is, but I'm just prepared that he's not going to be pushed to the moon like how Kurt Angle was. And I think Kurt Angle caught on to wrestling very quickly.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think he was in, maybe he was in Memphis. I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on it, but I don't think he was in Memphis that long, or any of their developmental programs at that time for that long. He caught on to it very quick. And that's why when Ronda Rousey came in and I watched her first match at WrestleMania that year, I'm like, man, she caught on to this very quickly. And it's like, if you're an athlete, it's a lot different slamming somebody on a 20 by 20 in a 20 by 20 ring compared to the mats in wrestling, because the mats are unforgiving. That's why I always loved Walter with the mat is sacred. Yes, it is. But I just think it's their new initiative to just introduce some new talent instead of going after the guys and girls that have been on the indies for up to the amount of years, have been taking reps, riding the roles, knowing who their character is. I just think this is a way they grab this guy. He's fairly young. You put him in their system. You can groom into what you want him to be and then take it from there.
No, and not so great news. Triple H suffered a mild cardiac event as it was released by WWE. But basically, what they're saying is that he had a heart attack and was in the hospital for about a week ago, and possibly had a procedure. I mean, their tweet was very cryptic.
It was vague. It was very vague.
Yeah.
It was very vague. It was very vague.
Is WWE downplaying something that might be a little bit more severe than we had anticipated?
Yes. I think what is going on is that he had a heart attack and they're just not putting it out there. I think he had a heart attack. He had to have a mild procedure. They're saying that he will make a full recovery,
which is good.
But I don't really think you'll ever see Triple H wrestle in a ring ever again, to be honest with you. I think we're at the stage. Look, who's taking over NXT this coming Tuesday? It's Vince and Bruce Pritchard. Yeah, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Matt Bloom, and William Regal will still be in their positions, but Vince and Brother Love are going to be the ones that are producing the show. So who knows if this is something that the stress of it all on Paul Levesque, it came down on him and gave him a massive heart attack. He's 52 years old. That's not old.
No, that's not.
That is not old. And for him they're saying it's a genetic heart issue that he's had over the years. And here's the thing. You remember when he had his quad injury and he came back and he looked uber huge? Like he looked too big?
Yeah.
I think that was 2002?
2002.
Yeah. And he looked like, honestly, I was saying that to friends at the time, like, oh, he looks too big. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, no, he's on some roids, man. We all know use of roids can cause heart problems. So what if this is just my devil's advocate Spocky and eyebrow coming out there. What if he was trying to present himself to come back as Triple H for a match down the road, right?
Yeah.
They're going to Saudi Arabia, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So what if one of the Saudi guys said, hey, we want to see Trips in a match, and he's getting all prepared, and he took it too far, man. This is what could happen to you. And especially years of on and off steroid use. I'm not suggesting that I know that Paul Levesque is on steroids, but after seeing him in 2002, after that injury, and he looked way too big. Yes, we know he hits the gym and he works out. Him and Vince are on the same kind of workout regimen thing, but I just think they are downplaying what's going on because you know why? I bet you any money if he's fully healed by, I believe, when are they going to Saudi Arabia?
Next month, I think.
Or October.
October, November.
That's kind of pushing it after a heart attack to see this guy come back. But if they really want him there, WWE is going to downplay it in such a way that, okay, he's cleared. We'll get our doctor to clear him.
Yeah.
And even if it's him wrestling whoever on the card, Randy Orton or whatever, the Saudi guys don't care. They'll take it. But that's what I think is going on. They're downplaying it because they're setting up for him and other old guys to wrestle over in Saudi. But hopefully, prayers with him. Hopefully, he can have a full recovery and live a long life and do some amazing things. Because he's one of the smart minds in the business. Look what he did with NXT.
Oh yeah.
It's just sad that we're no longer going to see it the way that we used to see it, and why we fell in love with NXT. You know what I mean? It's not going to be the same.
Well, I like
But
your scenario that he might have been training for an in-ring comeback. My initial thoughts was, NXT is getting this revamp that is kind of makes his hands come off of it to a degree. um, you know, AEW had that unbelievable paid preview, and they lost Adam Cole.
mhm.
So to that degree, it kind of felt like, there was a lot of going on, and maybe he just couldn't manage the pressure, the stress. But it could very likely be what you were saying as well.
It's splitting hairs. We're sitting here speculating, right?
Right.
So my first thing was, I thought the same way you did, and I'm like, maybe it could be that you're heartbroken because it literally, we all remember what NXT was after ECW closed, after they ended the whole ECW thing, and then it was the reality show and all that stuff that we got some amazing superstars from. Don't get me wrong. But when Triple H took over NXT, and then he started going into the indies and grabbing the Adam Coles and grabbing this Kevin Steens and the Samoa Joes and all those guys, and it became like a super indie. That's what NXT became. NXT became a super indie where it's selling out the Barclays Center and all this kind of stuff. And now all of a sudden, your father-in-law, because you lost to AEW on Wednesday nights, says, you ain't good enough anymore, pal. I'm taking it over. That could break your heart.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
if this is a genetic thing, who knows if this put him over the top and just had a massive heart attack. I really think, to be honest with you, I think that he is getting ready for an in-ring return when they go to Saudi. That's what I really think. I really think because we all know who always goes to the Saudi shows. It's always the older guys. It's
Yes.
never they never put like a young guy on the card. You're not going to see Ricochet wrestle on the Saudi card. It's always like, oh, let's call Triple H. Let's get Shawn to wrestle. Let's get, a few years ago was Undertaker and
Did Ricochet wrestle Brock Lesnar in Saudi Arabia for the championship?
Yeah, why not? You're signed up with them for the next 10 years. Why not? It's just, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, the NXT thing is like the obvious, but I really think you got to look at it the other way, where he is a competitor. He hasn't stopped. Like, he hasn't said, I'm done, I'm retired, I'm no longer coming in the ring, etc., etc.
Right.
It's just that he hasn't been in the ring because really and truly there hasn't really been a story for him to be in the ring. He's been more focused on doing the stuff down at NXT. And now that that's been taken away, what else is there for Paul Levesque to do?
Absolutely.
And as a wrestler or in this industry, you're creative. So if your creative narrative or your creative juices have been taken away from you and you no longer can create, you're going to lose your mind. Like, he knows he can no longer, what can we do with Samoa Joe? Or what can I do with LA Knight? Like he can't book anymore. That's taken away. Vince is going to be booking it. So, yeah, that could break his heart and cause him to have a massive heart attack, because what you've known for the last how many years he's been down in NXT and all the people that you've groomed and this, that, and the third. And another thing, too, that could hurt with him is that all the guys that he has made down in NXT that have gotten called up to the main roster have been made to look like shit.
Yeah.
Excuse my French. But they have. Not one of those guys that have been called up to the main roster have been booked the same way.
And essentially, they're grooming them for other independent shows like AEW and Impact.
Yes.
Making them bigger stars just so they could go to somewhere that could be more beneficial to them than WWE at this point.
Yeah.
And of course, thoughts and prayers to him and his family. Hopefully, he has a full recovery soon. We'll conclude with the news for now, and we will get into our reviews in a moment.
Hey, folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show. Support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.